hands off of me.
Dan Rather.
Unless you intend to arrest me, don't push me, please. I know you won't, but don't push me. Take your hands off of me unless you plan to arrest me.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Well, Walter, as you can see...
I don't know what's going on, but these are security people apparently around Dan. And obviously getting roughed up.
We tried to talk to the man, and we got bodily pushed out of the way. This is the kind of thing that's been going on outside the hall. This is the first time we've had it happen inside the hall.
1968, Chicago, the Democratic National Convention. CBS reporter Dan Rather manhandled and accosted on the convention floor while doing his job. Flash forward to this weekend in Chicago at another Donald Trump rally. Depending on which side of the discourse you stand on, it is either a leading political candidate stirring up racial unrest and hate to the point of feeding a base that welcomes such antics, or it's a band of paid protesters who revel in nothing more than stoking racial anger and seeking to disrupt the political process to feed their own partisan means. Either way, this will not fade into the night. Chicago's only a preview. The eyes of those who deal in security are circling July 18th, the beginning of the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, and what could be a frightening 3 days. Let's begin with the veteran American journalist. 7 times his books have appeared on the New York Times bestseller list. His most recent, First Family Details, Secret Service Agents Reveal the Hidden Lives of the Presidents, Ronald Kessler. Joined by the syndicated columnist, veteran economist, University of Maryland professor of business, Peter Morici. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. And Ron, let me begin with you. As we look forward to Cleveland, what is happening right now, is it not fair to say that we are looking at the potential for what could be a frightening time in Cleveland simply because of the rhetoric that has been ratcheted up on both sides?
Well, I think it's the positions that Donald has taken, whether you agree with them or not, that have stirred up these passions. It's not his exhortations about the protesters, it's his positions. And I've been warning about Secret Service laxness since even before the Salahis penetrated the White House in 2009, the party crashers, and I see insufficient Secret Service protection today. The Secret Service management has this attitude that they're invincible. It's not the agents themselves that are brave and dedicated, but the management has this culture. You saw the result when an intruder was allowed to penetrate the White House itself. He was armed in September 2014. And specifically, for example, spectators should not be allowed behind Donald or around Donald. Mm-hmm. He should have an armored podium in front of him. And looking down the road after he sews up the nomination, I think he should consider not having these public rallies because he gets all the exposure he needs on TV. ISIS would like nothing better than to wipe him out with WMD. They have billions of dollars being paid to scientists to develop weapons of mass destruction. They could wipe him out. They could wipe out thousands of spectators by just strolling in, as well as domestic assassins. In the past, it's those political figures who stir up passions such as Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, George Wallace.
Yeah, let me get in here for a second here, Ron, because all the points you're making are very good, but I need to bring Peter in on this because, Peter, is there not a responsibility, though, while the Secret Service needs to make sure that all candidates are protected, they need to make sure that the people themselves are protected from what may happen? And is it also not fair to say that whether you agree with him or not, Donald Trump could shut a lot of this down by coming out and saying, please don't do this, please don't get involved, arrest the protesters, but don't stir the pot?
Well, I think it's up to Donald Trump to make a clear statement of what he expects and to present himself in a way that minimizes the potential for these risks. However, let's face it, he goes to Chicago, one of the most liberal places on the planet, and protesters decide they're going to shut him down. We don't hear any outrage from the mayor. We don't hear outrage from Bernie Sanders. Instead, they get worked up about his rhetoric. Now, I will grant you his rhetoric is inflammatory, but I don't think that he should be banned from having rallies.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. We're still talking about freedom of speech here, Peter. I mean, the man is allowed to say whatever. We have to protect that. Is it not true, Peter, at the end of the day, of what Donald Trump says? Yes.
Absolutely. And Bernie Sanders seems to think, like the left does these days, they feel that the Republicans are not just wrong, and Donald Trump is not just wrong, but that he's evil. Therefore, anything goes, including having thugs shut him down. If Barack Obama can give a presentation to a gymnasium at Wayne State University, so should Donald Trump. But with Barack Obama, they screen who comes in the room. And they're going to have to do the same thing for Donald Trump now. He has accomplished that status. And people like Sanders and Kasich should be calling on the Secret Service and the Trump campaign to do that so that he has the chance to speak.
I agree with that.
Absolutely absurd.
Absolutely. Ron, 30 seconds to you. Do you now expect the Secret Service to get much more involved, not only at Donald Trump rallies, but at others, and really put together a very tight cordon of protection in light of all this?
You know, I don't. The Secret Service management is very arrogant. That's why we've seen one example of laxness after the other, and they have a cover-up mentality, and they're simply not going to make changes or urge him fervently to be more careful and impose more precautions. It's hard to imagine why the Secret Service would be like that, but that we've seen that over and over again. And they're going to take the attitude that we are the great Secret Service, we can handle anything. They're not going to provide sufficient protection, and that is a serious danger. So
okay,
absolutely, that Donald should have freedom of speech, but that doesn't do
to you
much
then,
good.
Peter.
Yeah.
25 seconds to you, Peter. Do we deserve to have more protection than of all the candidates in light of all this? Same thing.
Well, people should have the protection that they need. Deserve is another word. In this circumstance, Donald Trump needs more protection because he's simply more of a phenomenon than, say, Mr. Rubio or even Mr. Kasich.
You never know, though, because let's face it, all it takes is one whack job sitting out there who wants to do violence, and that is going to hurt a lot more than just one individual. Peter Morici, Ron Kessler, gentlemen, thanks so much for your comments. The role of comedy in the presidential race has never been more critical, but is one candidate purposely feeding the clowns and driving the clown car? We'll tell you about that when we come next. Telling it like it is on The Hard Line.